This is me at 7, teaching the world my karate moves. I guess I was always a pretty queer kid.
Let's hear some tunes, girl.
I grew up in a series of suburbs, always moving from one lonely planned community to the next. There was never a gay person in sight. I felt like nobody in these little towns understood who I was or what I wanted. Then, the summer before my 15th birthday, I was given a mixtape that changed my life. Turned up to 11, my walls shook with girls shredding on electric guitars, screaming words I'd never heard before. I was in love. Slater Kinney, Ani DeFranco, Team Dresch, these artists show me who I was. I couldn't wait to grow up and leave for the big gay cities they sang about. So as soon as I could, I drove west to San Francisco.
Before I left, my mother made me remove all the pride stickers from my bumper. She was convinced I wouldn't last a day driving such a gay car through those wild, unknown red states.
But once I got there, all the best mixtapes I started hearing listed bands from all those places I thought I was leaving behind. North Carolina, Georgia, Kentucky, and they were good. These southern bands inspired me by keeping queercore alive and doing for young queers what Riot Grrrl did for me 10 years ago. Except these folks are somehow shouting their anthems in a part of the country that almost everyone I know says is bigoted and backwards. No place for a gay person, and especially not a loud one. Where do they come from? And why do they choose to make their music in the South, so far from the comfort and fame of those big gay cities? I figured there must be something special about these bands and about this place, the South. Something worth making a mixtape about, at least. So I set out with a friend and a camera and hit the road, hoping to document this peculiar rise of queer culture in a seemingly unlikely place. First stop, North Carolina, and as the road trip begins, I'm wondering how these artists are using music to redefine what it means to be both Southern and queer.
It makes sense to me that there's a world of artists, of queer artists in the South, because that's what music has always meant in the South, as a way for people to find community and to share stories and to share their lives.
One of the nice things about our shows is that they've kind of become a place where like queers come and gather, and where you can see one another and catch up. Even people from different towns. Like, it's really exciting when the Raleigh queers come to Durham and the Durham queers are there at our show.
Stayed in Durham, folks really took care of me in those first few years. I was going through a lot of personal changes and then work changes, and there was the organization I was working for lost its funding, so we got laid off, and then all these neighbors were bringing me casseroles and dishes and leaving 20s and giant jars of artichokes on my porch, and
That's so nice.
so I thought, well, why would I go anywhere?
When I was 19, I came home and I was a waitress in a steakhouse, and I had this long commute from my house to the steakhouse, and which is interesting because I'm vegan and was at that time, whatever. And so I had this commute and I was like, man, I need to listen to something, and someone turned me on to Slater Kinney, and that just opened my eyes so much, and I realized that I wanted to play punk music. That's why I got the electric guitar. And I became completely obsessed. That's all I did, was learn how to play their songs. I was so obsessed that I would teach myself how to play both of their parts at the same time.
grew up on a farm?
Yeah, it's pretty big. It's a generational farm. I feel really passionate about living here instead of choosing to live in some, no offense to anyone, but like some typical big city. Yeah, I mean, I think musically for me, I grew up in the church, Southern Baptist Church, so.
In the church you sang?
No, I didn't actually. I didn't sing until I was 18. I was pretty shy. And my parents didn't, this is sort of interesting, but my parents didn't listen to music at all. There was nothing, we had like a jam box and church music. That and like mainstream country is all I listened to. I think especially with Mount Moriah, there's a lot of harmonies and a lot of probably chord progressions that are sort of reference that.
I don't want you to cure. If your old book says it's true.
I feel like it's one of the only things I really took from growing up in a house that was very strictly Christian, and that's just what I took, was the music and not the message.
Well, I've had your fears, your love, your suffering. All these years of come and claim, I've never heard or seen.
I was born here, and the music has always been just like coursing through this city in like this really essential way of keeping it alive. Yeah, or the life of it, I mean, from blues and bluegrass and everything from historically up until now. I think that, as everybody starts to and continues to get really excited about Durham and the music scene, that's absolutely the first thing people should think about, is like at what cost that is, or like how to nurture what's been here for so many years. And I think it's also important to recognize that nothing's a utopia too, and that like that homophobia does exist in everybody, and that like everybody has these levels of racism and stuff that's been socialized, and to speak about those openly is like the way, I think, to work towards moving past them. It seems like there's a lot of empowerment in like taking whatever unique thing it is that you have to offer into like the larger kind of pool of music.
There's music everywhere down here, in saws and spoons and washboards, connecting people of all kinds to the land and to each other. And it looks like this DIY spirit has been passed down for generations.
Gathering up the shells from the sea. Those were the happiest days of all. Gathering up the shells.
We're gonna drive up to Lexington to hang out with the Spooky Q's. Jack, who's the front man, very active in queer organizing. And everybody seems to know him every time I say we're gonna go to Lexington.
I frankly get tired of going places and folks are like, what, you're from Kentucky? As if Kentucky is this total backwoods, third world place where like nobody is creative, nobody can read or whatever. I just hate that shit. Yes, you can come from a place like Kentucky and be progressive.
I was lazy and unmotivated until I moved to Lexington.
Jack and I in particular, I mean, that's our passion, is to try to create things here in the city. Whether it's progressive activism around environmental concerns and economic justice concerns, or just creating queer spaces that are safe and friendly for people.
Because it scares me. This is March 10th was when I had my first one, so it's now what, almost July 10th, so we're almost at the 4-month mark. And it's 10 cc's of testosterone cypionate.
Oh, 4 months. That's a lot of changing for 4 months.
My voice has dropped drastically. But I read a really excellent quote by somebody who said, "You only stop singing when you stop singing." And what they recommended is that you actually continue singing while you're transitioning, cracks and everything, because if you wait until your voice completely changes, then you're back at square one and you're looking for all those notes again, and that becomes very discouraging.
Caught wind of a lesbian promotional company that put on hip-hop shows in South Carolina. So we hit the road to see how folks behind the scenes were using music to carve out queer spaces.
Appreciate everybody coming out and showing love. Each and every bash, I swear to God, y'all always make it worth the while.
The Columbia gay scene has been here. You feel me? It has been here, but it hasn't been promoted the way it should be. And thus you have Speak On It Entertainment, who is a promotional company.
We the voice for the South.
We promote. You know what I'm saying? We promote.
You know what I'm saying?
We promote.
Here, I'm a boss. You see my swag, you see my walk, you hear my talk, I said I do. This here, I'm a boss. You see my swag, you see my walk, you hear my talk. Big running out my life, I never been to sleep. From deep into the mid, yeah, I'm known in these streets. These haters wanna kill me, but I'm still.
We just feel like we got a voice that needs to be heard, and so we take that risk to give our community something. You know what I mean? We take that risk.
Yeah, people have to understand the South is real big on religion. You know what I'm saying? So
in the Bible Belt.
Yeah, so that, yeah. So I mean, for us to step out on the forefront and take criticism, you know what I'm saying, and all the negativity, like my boy said earlier, you always gonna have that few, you know what I'm saying, that's gonna, you know what I'm saying, try to stir stuff up, but we're a tight-knit family.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we don't let no outside interference influence what we do.
A little while back, we did a show in Greenville, South Carolina at Club Skittles. It was crazy because that night, at the end of that performance, she spoke out that she was going to be the first lesbian on the radio here. And maybe a month later, she's on the radio now.
Yeah, we're going to Athens, Georgia to hang out with Athens Boys Choir.
Yes.
Athens Boys Choir is the moniker of Cats. And he is super awesome, apparently, because he's putting us up for the night in his big house with his dogs. Are they big dogs?
I think they're big dogs.
Yeah, that's good. I don't like this.
Look, it was shocking to me that I was coming to Georgia. I was driving here, going to spend one night, because I had a dorm room. I was going to spend one night there and the next day leave for New York. I brought in a book bag. I had no intention of staying in Georgia. I was like, F Georgia, F the South. Hell no, Georgia's the jam. I've been here for 11 years now. I came for one day and it stayed for 11 years.
Because it's fucking well, I like you. I love you, Jackson. The gayest thing. What's the gay free friend? Full regulations that get things slaying fast. Marky Mark and see can underpin. Sauce that you references and 90s boys bands.
The queer network in the South is really interesting, and I think we're really good to each other. And when I started, you know, I didn't know people around the country like I know now. I would just go to a show and do a show and literally say from stage, like, we need a place to stay. And that night I'd have a couch or a bed or a floor, you know. It's like, I didn't know y'all, but I just hear you doing stuff with queer music, and I'm like, yeah, share my house. It's just how we do.
You the trip, but they were hardly enough. I was ready to fret. Spring lurks, I was sweating. Threw out my fishing line, my aim was filling. Got a QRT, this 2JT. Thought we...
There's something about it. I do love being in the South. I think people are so nice here. You know, I do think that my experience is different because I'm white here. Being a white person in the South is a different experience than being a person of color in the South. That being said, it's good to do work from here, you know. You can do, you know, anti-racism work at a one-to-one level. I had like a really effed up conversation with somebody at a bar the other night. But it's good because you keep it friendly, you have a conversation, and hopefully at the end you both learn something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I learned, but I hope you learned something.
We're spirit fingers from here to Waterloo, yeah. Jazz and the jazz, and we roller skated. We all skate reverse, we shoulder shipping naked. 130, 160, 190 off the yellow from tits to stand. We was by our
Do people drink it straight like this?
If you're gonna drink this one straight, you just toss it.
Oh, really? Down the hatch?
Yeah.
Whew. I think my chest got a little hairier in there.
Turn right at South Duke Street.
So where are we headed to now?
Melissa York's house. Melissa York was the drummer for Team Drash and the Butchies. Oh, and then also Amy Ray from the Indigo Girls. Amy and Melissa, I guess, are doing a project together. They happen to have rehearsal this afternoon, and Melissa set it up, which is really awesome. Hi, I'm Meredith.
Hey,
Nice to meet you.
Madison. All right?
Nice to meet you guys. In the South, like the way that you come up through the scene, like in Atlanta, it's very non-competitive at that time. I don't know what it's like right now totally, but so, you know, like our first chance to play Athens was opening for a band called The Squalls. It was kind of a punk rock band. And we were playing folk music. So that's, you know, the South, it was an easier place to cut your teeth. Yeah, I mean, I started playing music with Emily in 1980, so in high school. And at that point, we didn't know what being gay meant, so we didn't know what the word meant. So it's a big jump from that to where we are now.
I think the first thing that's coming to my mind is that I was able to be a musician here, because the cost of living isn't as crazy as it is in bigger cities, you know? So I was able to do a lot of touring and do, you know, I mean, things I feel so blessed to be a part of, you know? The Butchies, we just would get so many emails that would be, you know, thank you so much. I mean, this is heavy shit, you know? It's like, thank you so much for existing, you know, because of you I didn't kill myself. And that's really freaking heavy, you know? And I talk about something that's gonna make me cry, you know? Just the fact that there's queer kids out there that feel like they're on that edge, you know, of ready to kill themselves, and just something that we're doing and blessed to do is helping them, you know what I mean? I really feel grateful that we're all in it together, you know what I mean? And then we can help each other out, you know?
There is a connection to the land that is just transcends your sexuality and your gender and your race and everything, you know? And there's a connection to the music that came out of Appalachia, you know, and it infiltrates and affects anything that you're doing. Whatever kind of music you're playing is affected by it. So that's what keeps me here and draws me here, you know, and the fact that I'm queer connects me in a different way and makes it richer, you know, even richer to me, you know, because there's a lot of tough, you know, hard scrabble sort of ideas about Appalachia and the South, and being queer just adds one more element to that.
After the interview, we found out that Melissa York's late 90s queercore band, the Butchies, were having a reunion show in Carborough, a neighboring town. Mel was kind enough to gather up the original members so they could sit down with us before the big day.
So we moved to Durham and we knew we wanted to do a band, but we needed a bass player, you know, and it was like, okay, do we ask someone from Portland or whatever to come and play bass? But it's like we really wanted to have someone here, you know? And we heard about, you know, and wanted someone to be queer too. So that was our whole thing. And we heard about this hot bass player, Leslie.
Yeah. I met Al's truck before I met Al. And her truck was just like, had all these stickers on it. And the one that I loved so much was,
what was it?
It said, homosexual, every good Southern family should have one. Is that what it said? And I was just like, I totally saw her truck in some parking lot somewhere. And I was just like, I want to know that person.
So, you know, you've been here for a lot longer. Like, how was it for you to be queer in the South?
Well, I came out at NC State, which it's really funny. Every year when I go to Pride, I always get teary-eyed when I see the high school groups and the college groups going by. Because when I started at NC State, it was a really homophobic environment. Like, our little group was like 30 people, and it was really scary. You know, we had the Free Expression Tunnel whenever we did some painting for National Coming Out Day or Blue Jeans Day. I would guard the tunnel because people would come and write, you know, fags die and all that kind of stuff.
For us in New York and Portland or whatever, Olympia, Washington, it wasn't really that big of a deal, but knowing how big of a deal it was here. Mm-hmm. You get what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for being out. It was a big deal because it mattered.
We grabbed an interview with the Butchies' opening band, Pink Flag, an all-girl punk trio from Durham, right before the reunion show.
How long have you guys been playing music together?
Since, I guess, our first practice was in January of 2008.
How did you start playing drums?
Just, like, in church, just hearing the drummers, and then, like, because my dad, he was the pastor, so they let me, like, just play every Sunday.
So what do you guys like about playing music in Durham?
Community. Yeah. The community is really awesome.
The Butchies show was the perfect way to end my tour through the queer South. I was in high school when they were getting big, and I remember reading the liner notes on a Mr. Lady record CD, wondering how there could possibly be out queer punks in North Carolina. Pink Flag gave me a killer song for my mixtape. These girls are definitely following in some pretty serious footsteps. and Kaya played their hearts out. And thanks to some sweet queer music scene serendipity, almost everyone we had met that summer was at the show. They even had Heather McIntyre up to guest on one of their songs. Thanks in part to these brave and courageous folks, the image of the South is changing, and the South itself is changing. The musicians I met show me that queer kids don't have to move to San Francisco for things to get better, and their commitment to DIY goes hand in hand with their investment in the community and connection to the land. Growing up, the tracks on those original mixtapes shaped me into who I am today, and I saw the same thing happening here in the South, but on a much bigger level. My hope is that this project can act like a perpetual road trip, giving you a mixtape that you can share with your friends, so that more people can be inspired to change their communities for the better, piece by piece, with music.